Hey guys, how's it going? So today I am going to play a new game on my channel that I started playing about like 2 months ago, and I started playing this game instead of Hearthstone because I'm not really playing Hearthstone at all. I stopped spending money on that game, stopped playing it at all. So this is the game that I recently got into. It's also a card game, similar to Hearthstone, but you basically have to protect your hero and your side of the battlefield with the cards that you play, and the cards aren't stationary, they are actually moving around on the battlefield. So let's get into a few matches. So in this game I am going to play as Morelia. As the Let's Play goes on, I will explain a little bit about the various cards and all of that, since it is the first time that I'm playing this game on my channel. So we are going up against a Milloween, that is the pink hero on the right side, and I am a Morelia. So first off, they are playing a crystal deck. You know that by the crystal archers that they are playing, and the crystal constructs. So we have to keep an eye on that. And they just played another crystal minion, so this is pretty certainly a crystal deck. Crystal decks are pretty powerful, but I should be able to overcome them depending if they have Priestess. Priestess is another card that can really do some pressure. So that big guy I'm going to burst down with my laser tower. The laser tower is really quite a cool tower to deal sustained damage. Unfortunately, they now have two of those damn crystal constructs. The crystal construct can absorb damage from all of the crystal minions around him, and I am just getting torn apart here by their push. That's a pretty powerful push, to be honest. So I'm going to play my frost feather guys over here and the tower, and that takes care of that, fortunately. But I am a little bit on the back foot, even though my warriors at the top did quite a bit of damage to the opponent's face. As you can see, obviously on the right bottom side of the screen is his health, and at the left bottom screen side of the screen is my health. And pretty much just the same as in Hearthstone. I have a certain amount of health and he has a certain amount of health. Like in Hearthstone it's 30-30. In this game it's 3000 for me, 3000 for my opponent. And you obviously have to keep that in mind. You have to keep the amount of HP that you have in mind. So he just played Lele. Lele is a pretty powerful minion that costs 5 mana, but fortunately we dealt with that without too much effort. And the crystal thing that you see there at the top, that is the special ability that the Milloween character has. Let's just use the knife fall or the dagger fall to kill all of those guys over there. And wow, his health is taking quite a punish. This deck that I'm using summons a bunch of warriors for every building that you play. So, and it's GG. That's too much damage for my opponent to handle at all. And yeah, that's just GG. So basically the way that this deck works, if I can quickly explain it to you, is there's a certain card in the game called Call to Arms, and it summons a warrior. The card's name is Warrior. I think Warrior has like 300 HP and does, I don't know, something like 25 damage or something like that per second. Obviously all of the cards do a certain amount of damage per second and have a certain amount of health. So Okay, that was a very poor poison attack there on my building, since that kind of spell, the poison spell, does not affect the buildings at all. So he pretty much just wasted a bunch of his mana right there. And I'm going to play the call to arms in order to summon these 3 warriors. That's already pretty good value. Obviously, the more warriors that you play, or the more buildings that you play, the more warriors that you get. That's the way that this kind of deck works. And wow, that's a really powerful guy that he played right there. That minion at the bottom's special ability, you could say, is that it generates a shield for all of his minions, all of the minions that he has on the field when he captures a breach. But fortunately my warriors were just able to bash his face in, and I won. So while he was busy dealing with my bottom bridge, I was just able to pound his face with my warriors that went over the top bridge. Now we're going up against the Puff hero, which is King Puff. Obviously each different hero has different abilities, and some of them have like different cards. Like for instance the Maloween, who we played against with the crystal deck, like playing all of those pink crystal cards. Maloween can summon a crystal kind of a construct. I'm not certain what the name is, but it basically is that big pink crystal thing that just shoots out stuff the whole time. And obviously my hero is Morelia. I always forget the names. It's Morelia, and she has the ability to actually summon a dragon. So my warriors here are gonna do quite a bit of damage, and that is a brilliant dagger fall that I got there. I dealt a whole bunch of damage, not only to his face but also to the minions. So that should put me in a good position over there. The Swarmer totem at the bottom of the playfield will just start shitting out Swarmers. Those cards' name is Swarmers, but unfortunately he has played a Soul Stealer. That flying minion's name is Soul Stealer, and that is a really difficult minion to deal with once the card has killed a bunch of enemies. Like he gains speed for every enemy that he kills. So if he gets a bunch of stacks, because for every guy that he kills he gets a stack, he can get really powerful. But fortunately that didn't happen. I was able to kill him quite quickly, and now my warriors are just going to pound his face once again. But unfortunately he summoned Shen Storm Strike, and that is the monkey hero, in order to stun all of my guys. So that certainly helped him quite a bit. But my laser tower should be able to deal with that. But unfortunately he played Sniper Scrat. That Sniper Scrat at the top has an amazing range. It has like the furthest range in the game, so you really have to get and deal with him very quickly, otherwise he's just going to get a whole bunch of value. And here I'm going to play the Call to Arms again, just to really deal with that bloody sniper that he has. And he used the Beam of Doom to kill a bunch of my warriors. I summoned 5 warriors there. I only have 2 left, unfortunately, but it should be enough to deal with his face over here, since he's quite low on health right now. And that's a victory. I'm still on full health. I just got my dragon, even though I wasn't able to play my dragon. And yeah, that was a pretty cool game. So now we are going up against another different hero that I don't think we've encountered before. This hero's ability is it is able to summon a big guy on level 1. So level 1 you get when you reach 20 XP. So when he actually reaches 20 XP, he is going to summon a big guy, and that big guy is quite difficult to deal with, especially in the early game. So getting enough mana for yourself or enough XP for yourself to deal with that is quite important, and also keeping him away from XP is quite important. Unfortunately, he managed to get the spell off on that Scrat tank, and he managed to summon a bunch of minions there. That spell that he played on the Scrat tank, if you saw the Scrat tank at the bottom glowing, is a spell that basically summons a bunch of guys, and he just got his level 1 perk, that is that big guy at the top that is attacking my laser tower, but fortunately my laser tower was able to deal with it really damn quickly. The laser tower I basically explicitly put in my deck to deal with big guys like that guy that we just dealt with. There's another big guy that we haven't encountered yet, but it's a 9 mana card called Colossus, I think. And the laser tower is really the best way to deal with Colossus. Colossus is actually a very popular card. It is a card that we will definitely be encountering at some point, and it's quite difficult to deal with if you don't have the correct cards. A lot of decks actually use Colossus, and here we're just going to play Beam of Doom on his face. Beam of Doom does 300 damage to the opponent's face, and that should absolutely be enough, and indeed it is. So I changed my hero to Diona. Diona is a hero which her special ability is basically having a dog. You have like a little doggy that you can play with, or that actually it's autonomous. The doggy does its own work, but the doggy basically brings you mana and health and sometimes also experience based on certain things, like where an enemy dies. Where the enemy dies, it summons a potion, and the doggy then runs and gets the potion for you. So the card that I played just now is a 10 mana card. It's Thelic. I think Lord Sentinel Thelic is the full name of the card, but just calling it Thelic is fine. I'm going to play my Soul Stealer here at the top in order to get a couple of stacks. We can see he gets 4 stacks, which is quite good. 4 stacks means that it attacks, I think, 200% quicker, or I don't know. I think every stack is like 25% or 50%. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, 4 stacks is more than enough to also kill his Soul Stealer that doesn't have any stacks, fortunately. And unfortunately he plays the Whirly Scrat at the top, killing all of my guys. The Whirly Scrat is another really popular card, since it's quite tanky, it has quite a lot of HP, and it just is able to deal insane amounts of area of effect damage. Fortunately, my Ting Tang Tongue, that is the monkey that you see there, it's actually quite a cool card. It's 3 monkeys stacked on top of each other, and the more damage that the unit takes, the more monkeys actually die. It's quite a cool card. I'm going to play my Thelic again, my Lord Sentinel Thelic. It's really quite an insanely powerful card, to be honest. It's like in my opinion, the most powerful card in the entire game. But obviously, every card can get countered, and sometimes you're unlucky when you play Lord Sentinel Thelek. If the opponent is quick enough, he can just like literally play a spell in order to kill all of your crystal archers, and that should be GG. So if all of your crystal archers get killed, because the crystal archers that comes with Lord Sentinel Thelek is pretty weak, but they certainly do a lot of damage. The idea is that Lord Sentinel Thelek will tank most of the damage, so he's like the kind of tank. I think he has like 800 HP or something like that, and the crystal archers each only have like 40 HP. And here, as we see now, we have to go against the deck that also uses Lord Sentinel Thelek. So, as I just previously said, he's the strongest card in the game, in my opinion. Well, now we are going to have to go up against the strongest card in the deck, in the game, basically. But fortunately, since I do play Lord Sentinel Thelek, I know pretty good how to actually deal with him, and I know his strengths, I know his weaknesses and all of that. So yeah, basically I'm going to keep my Daggerfall for when he plays his Lord Sentinel Thelek, and then I should be able to kill all of his crystal archers in one fell swoop. Here we see he just played the Colossus. The Colossus is quite a powerful card, as I just previously said. It's quite an irritating card. Unfortunately, I don't really have the correct cards to play with it right now, but yeah, we will see how I will be able to deal with it. The Lord Sentinel Thelek should be able to deal with it, but since he is already playing his own Lord Sentinel Thelek at the top, I think the infiltrators at the bottom will be able to deal with it much better, since you don't want to play any melee minions against the Colossus. The Colossus has an insane amount of cleave. It just cleaves the shit out of you, and it's really difficult to deal with if you play melee minions against the Colossus. But fortunately I should be able to deal with that one quite easily. Now I know that he's pretty soon going to play his Lord Sentinel Thelek, so I should just keep an eye out for that, and hopefully I will be able to Daggerfall it without much effort, since if you can Daggerfall the archers that comes with Lord Sentinel Thelek, then you're in a very good position already. That spinning guy that you played is also quite cumbersome to deal with, since he deals an insane amount of AoE damage as well. I'm a little bit on the back foot here. I've just basically been defending the whole time with him doing most of the offensive stuff. As we can see, we are pretty much dead even in experience. Obviously his experience is at the bottom right and my experience is at the bottom left. Those two cards are going to deal an insane amount of damage if I don't quickly deal with them, since the Succubus and Incubus together really deal an insane amount of damage. But my guys at the top he's not dealing with at all, and there we go. I was just able to basically burst him down, since he just basically played a bunch of guys at the bottom trying to push my face in, but he really didn't deal with any of my guys that I played at the top. So he was just basically doing a kind of a face race, just trying to kill me as quickly as possible. But fortunately that did not work out for him very well. So that card that this guy just played is Mana... It's not Mana Frenzy. I don't know, but it basically summons a bunch of buffs, and those buffs, the idea is that it summons 4 buffs for you and 4 buffs for your opponent, and the person who is able to deal with the buffs on their opponent's side of the field will then get those buffs that were summoned for him, and those buffs will then go and stand on the bridges, and they will just generate mana. The buffs basically just stand there and they dance the whole time, and they just generate mana the whole time. So if you don't deal with the buffs quickly, then the buffs can actually be quite a good card, but fortunately so far we've been able to deal with the buffs quite quickly and easily. But yeah, it's just a difficult card to deal with if your opponent is very aggressive, since you can't then get to his side of the field to deal with those buffs, and the buffs just constantly generate mana for him. I think they generate 1 mana every 10 seconds or something like that, so it's quite cumbersome to deal with, to be honest. I also see that this guy is playing Swarmer Totem. Swarmer Totem is the building that you will see him popping down every now and then, and the way that that building works is it generates 3 swarmers every, I think, 5 seconds or something like that, and the swarmers are not very powerful on their own, but they really are quite good at overwhelming your opponent. And basically the swarmers that just constantly rush out of the Swarmer Totem will keep your opponent away from the Swarmer Totem. So the Swarmer Totem can just stay there and constantly generate swarmers and value, basically, since the longer that the Swarmer Totem stays on the field, the more value that it constantly generates. So it's quite difficult to deal with. Fortunately, here we are able to get a Soul Stealer with 10 stacks. So 10 stacks is the maximum. You can't get more than 10 stacks on your Swarmer, on your Soul Stealer. And I think at 10 stacks, the Soul Stealer attacks something like 350% quicker. So that's really quite a lot, to be honest. And yeah, this guy also is playing another card called Bats. And basically what it does is, if you play a lot of cards while the Bats effect is active, then it summons more bats. So basically bats aren't very powerful on their own, but they're quite an irritating flying minion. Obviously you have to have a minion that can attack air in order to deal with these bats. And since ground or most ground minions can't attack air, so you are quite in a difficult position if you don't have any air attack. But fortunately there, even though my deck doesn't have a lot of air attack, my Sentinel Lord Thelek was just able to burst his face down. Another thing which I haven't really talked about is you get Mana Frenzy. It's Mana Surge. In fact, Mana Frenzy is another thing. I don't think we've reached Mana Frenzy so far yet, but Mana Surge is something that Crystal cards is quite good with, and when you reach 6 mana, your Crystal cards get Mana Surge. And what the Mana Surge does is it makes them attack a lot faster. So you will see my Sentinel Lord Thelek is in Mana Surge right now, and is attacking way quicker than what he would normally attack at. Like normally he would attack maybe once every half second, but with Mana Surge he attacks like a couple of times per second. So you actually get some decks that explicitly work together with keeping your deck constantly in Mana Surge, since it's really quite a good thing to keep yourself constantly at 6 mana, to have your cards constantly attack quicker, since that's basically like enraging them. Like if you can basically constantly give your cards enrage, that's really, really good. I see this guy is playing Cleaver a lot. Cleaver is that big guy on the right side of his battlefield right now, and Cleaver is a big minion. He does a lot of damage with a single hit, but he attacks very slowly, fortunately. So if you just overwhelm him by giving him a lot of targets to deal with at once, then he's not really that difficult to deal with. But if you have a lot of single big minions, then that Cleaver is just going to tear them apart. So having a lot of small minions is better than having a single big minion when going up against the Cleaver. Fortunately, we are able to get this guy down quite quickly. Obviously that was my Lord Sentinel Thelig at the beginning that was just able to smash his face into pieces, and fortunately we are able to just beam of doom his face and get that 300 damage in on his face. And okay, so fortunately we have Lord Sentinel Thelig in the opening hand, and it's always good to have him in the opening hand, since generally when you start a game, both you and the opponent gets the chance to charge your mana up to 10. That's just generally how it usually works out. The opponent will wait before playing anything, and you will usually wait before playing anything. So you can start out with a Lord Sentinel Thelig, and whatever your opponent has is really inconsequential at that time, since if they've played anything else that can't really deal with your Lord Sentinel Thelig, then it's going to be really bad for them. Unfortunately, this guy was able to deal with my Lord Sentinel really efficiently, and yeah, he's so far been able to deal with all of my cards quite efficiently. So hopefully I will be able to claw back the field, but damn, I've already taken quite a bit of damage. So yeah, he's just been able to really efficiently deal with my minions so far. Hopefully the second Lord Sentinel Thelig will be a little bit more lucky and not just get Beam of Doomed like my previous Sentinel Lord Thelig did. The reason why I play my Sentinel Lord Thelig at the middle of the battlefield is so that some of my Crystal Archers will go to the top and some of my Crystal Archers will go to the bottom. That way you basically just avoid him being able to do a single spell like a single dagger fall or anything like that without having to really deal with all of the Crystal Archers. So he just plays a single spell and kills all of your Crystal Archers if you just play the Sentinel Lord Thelig on a single bridge, you could say. But if you play it in the middle, then some of the archers go at the top bridge, some of the archers go at the bottom bridge. It just really makes it so that you are not playing into AoE that much. So far this guy has really given my face a good pounding, but I am quite far ahead with the XP, so that is certainly good. Being ahead with XP is quite important. Obviously it doesn't help you at all if you just die, but it is quite important with regards to the long game, and obviously getting all of your perks, your level up perks, in order to get an advantage over your opponent. And like there, he just played the Beam of Doom at the top, and it just killed, I think, like 4 of the archers and my Sentinel Lord Thelek, and my archers that I sent to the bottom are fortunately able to survive. So if I just played my Sentinel Lord Thelek at a single location and didn't split my archers up, then obviously that would have turned out much differently, since all of my guys would be dead and I wouldn't have any archers left. So that's basically the long and the short of why I play my Sentinel Lord Thelek in the middle of the battlefield and not like just plop it down at the top or at the bottom or anything like that. It just basically guarantees for the most part that you can get value from your cards and not get screwed over by AoE or anything like that. So far I'm ahead in XP by quite a bit. I'm obviously quite far behind with health, but it's so far going pretty good. My opponent is going to be able to play his dragon, unfortunately, since Morelia, the opponent's hero, her perk 3 is the dragon. And in fact, speaking of the devil, here comes the dragon now. The dragon is really difficult to deal with efficiently unless you have something like a laser turret. So I'm just basically going to ignore the dragon for the most part, since, as I said, it's really quite difficult to deal with, and I am just going to play stuff that will be attacking his face for the most part. Dealing with the dragon is really quite difficult, since it's the strongest minion in the game. Obviously, if you play Lord Sentinel Thelek correctly, then he will be able to deal with the dragon, but like right now I really don't have much of a choice except just going offensively and ignoring the dragon, since the dragon is already on my side of the field, and it's just really not plausible dealing with it, since he will get way too much value from the dragon. Sometimes you just basically have to choose to go into a face race with your opponent, since if you don't, they will just get way too much value from their cards, and a lot of times you will be ahead. Like I was ahead in experience, I was pretty much controlling the board, and we were pretty much equal in HP, but a lot of the times when the opponent just plays dragon, you just die. Like literally, it's too powerful of a card for you to really be able to deal with it efficiently in most cases, and you just pretty much die. It's just game over when your opponent plays the dragon. It's pretty similar to the situation that we see right now with his Brutus card. Obviously, we've encountered this Brutus card before, and it's just a really big card. I think Brutus has something like 800 HP or 700 HP, and the card has lifesteal. It's actually one of the only cards in the game that has lifesteal, and it just is able to stay alive for very long if you aren't able to deal with the lifesteal, since it just constantly lifesteals, and you can't really deal with the health regeneration that it has. But fortunately, obviously, we were able to pound it down quite quickly. But very often, that first perk from the opponent's heroes is just so difficult to deal with, that the Brutus just serves as a big guy on the field, and if you get a couple of nice high DPS cards behind that Brutus, then it's just pretty much GG. There's nothing you can really do about it, since that Brutus just really serves as a too big of a hero or a too big of a minion to deal with, really. So far it's been quite back and forth, to be honest. My opponent is lower on HP than I am, but he's quite far ahead in experience. He's got 50% more experience than what I do right now, so he's really been able to deal with all of my guys quite efficiently, unfortunately. And unfortunately, he just got a lot of value there by playing the one card that basically turns his minions into, or one of his minions into, a cleaver if you can't kill the minion quick enough. So basically, I think it takes like 5 seconds or something like that, and then his minion is turned into a cleaver. And that just really gives him a lot of value, especially if he has a small minion that turned into a cleaver, since a cleaver is like, I think, a 6 mana card or something like that, and turning a small minion into a 6 mana card is really efficient. Right now he has his third perk, which is also a very powerful minion. It basically summons a Brutus as you get with the first perk, but it's a more powerful Brutus. So it's still a Brutus, but it has more HP, more damage, more lifesteal, and all of that. So I'm pretty much almost dead here. I just basically have to go pretty much offensive, to be honest, since I am just going to die if I aren't able to deal with these guys really efficiently right now. Since, yeah, I'm pretty low on HP, he's also pretty low on HP, but he's way ahead of me with experience, and so far he's just been able to deal with all of my guys very efficiently. So hopefully I can get a push right now that will just be able to deal with everything that he throws out on me. That guy that he just played is a Harbinger of Doom or Harbinger of Death, I can't remember. So it's really difficult to deal with, but I should be able to just kill his health. And fortunately I am able to just go for the face. A lot of times, as I said, you just basically have to not really throw caution to the wind and go for the face, but you have to weigh your options. Is it worth defending your side of the field in order to just protect your face? Obviously, if your face isn't protected, you're going to die if you take too much damage. But if you're given the opportunity to just bash your opponent's face in, then obviously that's excellent. If you can just like deal a bunch of damage to your opponent, more damage than what he is going to be able to deal to your face, and that way obviously you just win the game. So yeah, sometimes you just have to make the call. Fortunately, he just played a, I think, 5 mana spell, and all it did was kill a single crystal archer of mine, so that's really quite weak. And fortunately, my Sentinel Lord Thelek is in Mana Surge, so he's going to deal an insane amount of damage to my opponent, and he's not really dealing with it right now. He's still playing offensive cards when he really should be playing defensive cards. And as we see there, that was a really quick match. As we see there, he just basically died from my Sentinel Lord Thelek just wailing on his face with the Mana Surge. Obviously, if he has Mana Surge, he's going to attack like twice or 3 times as quick. I'm not certain what the percentage is, but yeah, Sentinel Lord Thelek on your face does a lot of damage if you just keep him in the Mana Surge, as we saw there. I've actually had a bunch of games where I kill the opponent before 1 minute, like literally not even 60 seconds, and then he is dead. And in most of those cases, it's because I played Lord Sentinel Thelek at the beginning, and my opponent just really didn't deal with it efficiently or at all. Sometimes if the opponent is relatively new, then they just don't care about Lord Sentinel Thelek. They don't even think it's a strong card, so I will play my Lord Sentinel Thelek at the top bridge, for instance, and they will just play a bunch of cards at the bottom bridge, not really dealing with Lord Sentinel Thelek at all. And yeah, they really quickly realize their error when they see their health plummeting down. Since, as you see here again, Lord Sentinel Thelek is going to be able to get Mana Surge and just deal an insane amount of damage to the opponent's face. So just like that, my opponent lost 2500 HP, and I really didn't lose much. I just lost my 10 mana Sentinel Lord Thelek. So yeah, sometimes the opponent just doesn't care about that really powerful card when they really should be throwing everything they can at the Lord Sentinel Thelek. Right now he's playing quite inefficiently, since he just played a 4 mana building in order to just basically avoid my Soul Stealer being able to attack his face. So he's basically just throwing out buildings in order to avoid some of the damage that's going to his face. So it's always good if you can make your opponent play inefficiently, since a lot of this game, pretty much the same as what it is in Hearthstone, is playing efficiently. If you can play more efficient than your opponent and get better trades than your opponent and more efficient trades, then it's basically game over. Your opponent is just going to not be able to deal with your cards efficiently, and they're just going to die. As we see here, obviously, my opponent just really didn't pay the tribute to Sentinel Lord Thelek that he needed to. He just basically ignored it at the beginning, and it just really spelled his doom right there. Since, yeah, Sentinel Lord Thelek is incredibly powerful card. Here we get Sentinel Lord Thelek once again in the opening hand. As I said, that's really quite good. Getting it in the opening hand means that you are able to basically get a free Sentinel Lord Thelek. Obviously, my opponent can also play a 10 mana minion right at the beginning, but if they don't, then they're going to be in a very difficult spot. Unfortunately, he got a good chain lightning off on my Sentinel Orthelic, but chain lightning is a spell that costs 4 mana, and basically I spent 10 mana on my Sentinel Orthelic, so he spent 4 mana to deal with the crystal archers of my Sentinel Orthelic, which basically puts my Sentinel Orthelic down to 6 mana, if you think about it that way. But the Sentinel Orthelic is still a powerful card on its own. It's not like you have just dealt with Sentinel Orthelic outright if you have dealt with the Crystal Archers. The Crystal Archers are just basically a bonus on top of the already powerful Sentinel Orthelic. I mean, Sentinel Orthelic is, I think, a 700 HP card that deals, I think, 50 damage per second. And obviously that's if he doesn't have mana surge. If he does have mana surge, then Sentinel Orthelic just becomes so much more powerful. And yeah, it's just then really difficult to deal with the Sentinel Orthelic on his own, never mind with the archers also, like if you also have the archers. Obviously here at the beginning, Sentinel Orthelic dealt a bunch of damage to this guy's face, so we might just be able to rush him down, kind of, even though I will really need a good board presence to be able to do that. Fortunately, I do have the Taunt Totem, so I'm going to use the Taunt Totem to my advantage. The Taunt Totem is my hero, which is Diona. It is her kind of special ability, her perk 1 special ability. So you unlock it at perk 1 once you reach 20 mana, and the Taunt Totem does pretty much what it says. It taunts your opponent's minions where you play it. So if you play it next to a bunch of minions, then the minions will be attacking the Taunt Totem instead of your other minions. So you can often use it to your advantage to protect some weaker minions. Obviously, the Taunt Totem by itself isn't very powerful. It only has, like, I think 200 HP, so 200 HP isn't like a game-winning amount of health, really, but for only 1 mana, 200 HP is really quite good. That's really a lot of HP for just 1 mana, so it's actually quite a good thing to have, especially when you need to protect some of your much weak. So here we're going up against the Brutus guy again. Obviously he gets his strong Brutus guy at perk 1 or level 1. Fortunately, he tried to combo the Brutus with the Priestess, which is that little lady that he played at the back, but fortunately he played it too far back. That's actually a really quite powerful combo, the Brutus together with the Priestess, since the Priestess has a constant healing stream, so it just like literally constantly heals whatever is close to the Priestess, and it just really is able to keep anything with a lot of HP alive for a really long time, and it's quite difficult to deal with that combo efficiently. The Priestess comboed with a a very powerful card. Here we're going up against Setsu. The opponent's hero is called Setsu. It's actually a girl, a female, inside like a huge mech suit, and she has like a massive like pulse cannon type of a weapon thing. So she really does quite a lot of damage. I think she deals the most damage out of all of the heroes. And another cool thing that she can do is she can actually jump, like she does this jumping animation, and then she can land anywhere on the battlefield, and she can actually attack you, like literally the hero becomes a minion. It's literally the only hero out of all of the, I think, 8 heroes that this game has that can become minion on the field. Like it can actually become a minion. As we see just now, it can actually jump and become a minion and just like literally walk around and attack stuff, which is pretty cool. The one drawback to that is that while she is on the field, she can't defend herself. So literally while she's on the field, she can't attack anything that attacks her face. So you really have to play it when you know there's nothing that's going to attack your face, since one thing that I very often do when my opponent has played herself onto the field is I just basically ignore her and actually try to keep her alive. Like, I don't play any cards to attack her minion on the field. I play cards to attack her hero tower, like literally the tower. So I just basically avoid her and just go for the minion tower. And that way, while she is walking around on the field, you can just literally kill her like really, really quickly. Since there's no way for the opponent to pull back the hero, to like pull back herself. So it does have a few advantages, like being able to obviously turn your hero into a minion on the field, which is actually a quite strong minion. I think when she plays herself onto the field, she has 300 HP or something like that. Which isn't a massive amount, but she only costs something like 2 mana to play. So 300 HP with quite a bit of damage is obviously quite a lot. It's quite a lot to deal with. So yeah, Setsu has some advantages, and actually a lot of decks actually work with Setsu in mind. Like literally a lot of decks will play Setsu onto the field right next to your tower. Like literally she will jump and land right next to your tower, and then obviously the person who played Setsu can still cast spells and stuff like that. So they will play a bunch of healing spells onto themselves. So they will literally just blast away at your face, since they have landed right next to your hero tower, and they will just blast away at your face and just heal themselves. They can enrage themselves. It's really quite a powerful card if you actually play it like that, like basically healing yourself, enraging yourself, and you can really deal quite a lot of damage to your opponent if they aren't able to quickly deal with the Setsu, since nobody really suspects or expects minion to just drop right next to your tower and to start damaging your face. And Setsu can actually deal like more than 50 damage per second to your face. So, and that's not even if they are enraged. If they are enraged, then they deal even more damage, since enrage adds 50% extra damage. So it's really quite a brutal combo to play the Setsu onto the field and then heal it, enrage it, all of that kind of stuff. You can even play some other spells like stun spells and infiltrators. Like I play infiltrators in my deck most of the times. It's the spell that basically allows you to play 4 Space Marines with ranged weapons. I actually have 2 of them in my hand right now. So you play those Space Marines with ranged weapons anywhere in the game. Like literally you can play it on your side of the field or on their side of the field. It's one of the only spells in the game where you can actually do that. And so you play Setsu, you play the Marines, and you just basically win. So here we're going up against a Mordor. We faced Mordor before. Basically, when you see that you are going up against a Mordor, and 90% of the time you know that the Mordor will have Colossus in their deck, since Colossus is a really powerful card to have in your deck when you are playing Mordor, since Mordor specializes in getting value from his gravestones or his tombstones. I believe it's called a tombstone in the game. So basically you play a very powerful minion, and then when it dies it is resurrected by the tombstone, and the tombstone only costs I think 4 mana or something like that. So by playing the 4 mana tombstone you can actually resurrect a 10 mana minion. So literally you're getting a 10 mana minion for 4 mana, which is obviously, needless to say, very good value, since you gain 6 mana just like that basically. So most of the time when facing a Mordor, they will be playing a lot of single strong minions. Now this guy is also playing a few quote-unquote weak minions, stuff like the skeleton that is on the field right now. It's a 1 mana card, I think, so getting that resurrected with the tombstone will obviously not be what the opponent will want. He will want to basically time it correctly so that he can then resurrect his strong minions with the tombstone instead of any of his weak minions or anything like that. So far this has really been quite a back and forth game, to be honest. I really haven't been able to get a big advantage at all. It's really just been back and forth the whole time, which is pretty good seeing as how I'm leading in mana right now. So as long as I'm leading with mana, I'm fine with having a bit of back and forth, since I know as soon as I actually reach the late game, I will just basically either win from having my perk 3 spell or skill before the opponent, or I will win by having Mana Frenzy before my opponent. But right now it just seems that I'm going to win through purely having my Sentinel Lord Thelic just pound away at the opponent's face, since it really deals a lot of damage, obviously, as we've seen. If you don't deal with the Sentinel Lord Thelic quickly, then you are just basically going to die, since it deals an insane amount of damage. And yeah, fortunately I was able to win that one without too much problems, even though it was quite back and forth there.
Throw down those cards.
So in this one we are going up against Stormbringer. That's the opponent's hero's name. Stormbringer is a really powerful hero, actually. Some people who play the game think that Stormbringer might be the most powerful hero in the game, and that is because Stormbringer can deal damage to anything on the entire battlefield once he gets his perk 3 or his perk 1 ability. So as soon as he reaches his perk 1 ability, he can then attack anything on the field. Now he attacks very slowly and he doesn't do a lot of damage. He does 40 damage, I think, and he attacks like every 3 seconds or something like that. That basically means that he's doing like around 13.3 damage per second, which really isn't a whole lot. It's quite a small amount, to be honest, but just purely the fact that he can play or that he can attack anything on the entire battlefield is really quite irritating. A lot of times he gets very lucky hits with his attacks, since he attacks the thing closest to him. So he won't attack your face if you have a minion on the field. He just basically attacks the thing that is closest to him. So often that will be in your advantage, like you will have a nice strong minion that is closest to his face, but other times you will have like a small minion with not a lot of HP, and he will just shoot the minion and the minion will die. So a lot of times his hero can actually get a big advantage from just being able to attack anything on the entire battlefield. Is really quite irritating a lot of times, to be honest, since I've had some really unlucky times where he will kill my Soul Stealer when it's just on very little HP or anything like that, and a Soul Stealer costs 5 mana, so literally normally you would have to play a spell or something like that in order to deal with your low health Soul Stealer, but no, that hero, the Stormbringer, can literally just shoot it by pure luck. So it's really quite a good hero, to be honest. Here we're going up against a Mordor, and we are into the diamond ranks now. It's diamond rank or platinum rank, I'm not too certain. So we're not in the gold ranks anymore, and it obviously gets a little bit more difficult the higher that you go in the ranks. Obviously the game works the same as pretty much any other PvP online game whereby there are ranks. It's like I think you start out at wood, then it's stone, then it's silver, gold, platinum, diamond, then it's master, then grandmaster, and then contender. Contender is actually above grandmaster. So contender is basically like the legend rank in Hearthstone. Obviously, if you've played Hearthstone, you know getting to legend isn't like impossible, but it's quite difficult. You actually have to put in quite a lot of time to get to legend. Now, I would say in this game it's much more difficult to reach contender rank than it is to reach legendary rank in Hearthstone, since this game is way more skill dependent than what Hearthstone is. In Hearthstone, honestly, Hearthstone isn't a very skill dependent game. I mean, you could be the most skilled guy on earth in Hearthstone, and you could get screwed over by just having a bad draw or a bad opening hand. I mean, that's quite ridiculous that like the weakest player on earth can beat the best player on earth in Hearthstone simply by pure luck, to be honest. So that can't happen in this game. Like literally, I've played hundreds of games and it has never happened where I got screwed over by simply having a bad hand or anything like that. So yeah, it's much more difficult to actually reach contender rank, which is the top rank in this game, as opposed to the top rank in Hearthstone, just purely due to the skill ceiling in this game is much higher. So this guy is pretty much over. He's on 300 health. I can just play infiltrators and he will just basically die. I could also just have played Doom, Beam of Doom, since that does 300 damage, but I rather went for the infiltrators there. My opponent's hero is Rat Bow. Now, Rat Bow is a pretty cool hero if you have a deck specifically built around the hero. Most heroes, you don't really need a deck specifically designed to accentuate the hero. Like obviously with Mordor, as I've said, having a bunch of single strong minions is very good with Mordor, since it just basically allows you to get a lot of value with your tombstone. My opponent is going to have a very difficult time dealing with this 10 stacked Soul Stealer. As you can see, it's just destroying his face. So I have a sneaking suspicion this game will be over very quickly. And now my Mana Frenzy or my Mana Surge Thelek is just going to town on his face. And yeah, the game is over in 1 minute 12 seconds. That's pretty ridiculous. But basically with like Mordor, you need a bunch of single strong minions. Okay, so I'm going to switch over to a bit of team games right now. I've obviously been playing a bunch of games with the solo play, but the game also has a team play mode where you compete in a different ranking system. It's not the same ranking system as in solo games, and you play with a teammate. So it's quite cool. You can work together with your opponent or with your teammate to beat your opponent. It's really quite a cool game mode, to be honest. So I'm gonna play the rest of the games with team mode just so that you guys can see a little bit of variety. The solo play gets a little bit stale after a while, and to be honest, I actually prefer team mode, even though sometimes you can get screwed over by getting a weak teammate. But to be honest, obviously because it is rank based, you are the same rank as your opponent, so the chances of having an idiot as a teammate isn't really that much, since unless you are in the idiot ranks like stone rank or wood rank or anything like that, your opponent will be most of the times a pretty competent player. So the chances of you getting a idiot isn't that much, to be honest. It just so happens that all 4 of our heroes are APEP. APEP is the snake hero that you see on the left and right side of the screen, and APEP has this one special ability where APEP can shield itself. So you can basically play a shield, which is a building, as soon as you reach your perk 2 level up skill, and the shield, the building will shield your hero so that you don't take any damage on your face. And I think the shield lasts 15 seconds or 10 seconds, something like that. So it's a pretty cool hero. I really like the hero. But in any way, I was talking about builds, various builds that you can do with various heroes. So with Mordor, obviously, as I said, having a bunch of single strong minions to resurrect with your tombstone is very good, since very often, if you play it correctly, you can get a 10 mana minion resurrected with your tombstone. So you spend 4 mana on your tombstone and you get a 10 mana minion resurrected. That's obviously the optimal way to play, but sometimes if you get a little bit unlucky, you might resurrect a 1 mana or a 2 mana minion, or you might resurrect nothing at all if your opponent is able to kill your tombstone quickly enough. And then you've basically spent 4 mana on nothing. You just basically lose that 4 mana. So yeah, you basically have to play certain heroes very differently. You also get the Ratbow hero. That's the one with the machine gun. He looks like a rat and he has a machine gun. That hero, his special ability is where you basically summon a little scrat, a little minion, which they call a scrat. I think the scrat has something like 20 HP and deals like 5 damage a second or 10 damage a second. It's really a weak minion, to be honest, but you get one each time you summon a minion. And when you summon a minion that costs more than, I think, 5 mana or 4 mana, then you get the armored scrat. So you get either a scrat or armored scrat, depending on the mana cost of the minion that you're playing. But in any way, you can actually get a lot of value out of Ratbow as a hero if you have a bunch of small minions. And obviously, if you don't have a lot of spells, since his hero power only works with minions. So if you have a spell, if you play a spell, you don't get anything. But if you play a minion, then you get a free little scrap on your side of the battlefield. And when you reach perk 3 with Ratbow, you then summon 2 scrats each time. So it's not just 1 scrat that you summon each time that you play a minion, it's then 2 scrats that you summon each time you play a minion. So Ratbow can very quickly overwhelm the board with these little shitty weak minions if you aren't careful, since a lot of decks deal very efficiently with small minions like that, but a lot of other decks don't. They really don't deal with small minions very efficiently. So yeah, that's basically the way how you can build your deck around a hero. With Apex, the hero that I am playing currently, you basically get the most value out of it if you have a lot of small minions. That is because you need minions that's below 3 mana cost, basically. So no 10 mana cost minions or anything like that. You basically need a bunch of small minions. That's because the perk 1 and the perk 3 of Apex is that you get a free, or not a it is a free card. You get a free card, either I think it's a 2 mana cost card at the beginning, so at perk 1 you get a 2 mana cost free card, and at perk 3 you get a 4 mana cost free card in your deck. So when you basically have a bunch of small below 3 or 4 mana cost cards in your deck, you then will cycle through your entire deck very quickly, because I mean you have 10 cards in your entire deck. So if all of those 10 cards are low mana cost cards, then obviously you're gonna cycle through them very quickly, because you get 1 mana per second on average. So every 3 seconds you can play a minion, and that way you cycle through your deck very quickly, and you get that card again, the free 2 mana cost card or the free 4 mana cost card. You get that every 10 cards. So you get that same card again every 10 cards, because you cycle through your deck constantly. So by having a bunch of small low cost cards in your deck, you're gonna cycle through your deck very quickly, and that way you are going to get your free card, your free 0 cost card, almost constantly if you have a deck that cycles through the cards very quickly. So basically each hero, or most heroes, have a way that you can make your hero more powerful by playing with a specific deck. Not all heroes are like that. Like, for instance, the hero that I played with right at the beginning, like Morelia, you don't really need a specific deck with Morelia. You don't really need a specific deck with Halloween. That's the crystal, the pink crystal girl that summons that other pink crystal construct thing. You don't really need a specific deck with Apex either. It just basically helps to have a bunch of small minions, but you don't really need it. So there's a bunch of heroes where it's really not dependent on the hero that you or the deck that you play with the specific hero, even though, like I said, Mordor is really dependent on the deck that you play, since if you have a bunch of small minions in your deck, you really can't ever take advantage of your hero perk, since you won't ever want to play your 4 mana tombstone in order to resurrect a small minion. So Mordor is a specific hero that's not good with any deck. Ratbow, for the most part, isn't good with a spell deck. You really don't want any spells in a Ratbow. And King Puff is another hero that you don't really want just any random deck, since King Puff is quite dependent on his perk 2. His perk 2 or his level 2 perk makes all of the 4 mana and 5 mana creatures that you play or minions that you play have either shield or rage. So literally every 4 or 5 mana minion that you play will have either shield or rage, and that's incredibly powerful, to be honest. It's like ridiculously powerful. It's honestly one of the most powerful perks in the entire game, since guaranteeing that each of your minions have shield or rage is like crazy powerful. And with him, with King Puff, it's really not that difficult to build a deck with only 4 or 5 mana cost minions. Arguably 4 mana and 5 mana minions are the best minions in the game, since it's not too high cost to be like prohibitively expensive, and it's not too low cost to be just like weak, because obviously a bunch of weak minions will die to one strong minion. So having minions that are kind of in the middle with 4 mana and 5 mana minions, you can really deal with a bunch of small minions, or you can deal with one single strong minion. So it's really quite a good hero to play with 4 mana and 5 mana cards. So yeah, that's King Puff. Is really quite dependent on a specific deck, and Ratbow is pretty dependent on a specific deck, even though not like hugely. And yeah, Mordor is by far the most dependent on a specific deck. If you have not a very good Mordor deck and you play Mordor, then you're basically at a massive disadvantage. But yeah, really all of the other heroes, Volko, Brutus, Stormbringer, Maloween, Apep, and Setsu, all of them you can play with just basically any deck, and it will almost always work out good. They're not really deck dependent at all, to be honest. So right now I'm playing with Maloween once again with my trusted Thelek deck, my Lord Sentinel Thelek deck. Lord Sentinel Thelek is a really good deck to play with in team battles, because obviously, as I've said already, it's most efficient to play your Lord Sentinel Thelek in the middle of the battlefield. So you play him right in the middle of the battlefield, then some of your archers go above and some of your archers go below to the bottom bridge. And if you coordinate with your teammate well, then you can obviously have your archers go at the top with the Lord Sentinel Thelic, and then your teammate can play a nice, strong, beefy minion with a lot of health at the bottom, so that the minion can tank for your archers. So obviously Lord Sentinel Thelic is there to provide a nice tank for your archers, and then at the bottom your opponents, or not your opponents, your teammates minion can serve as a nice tank for your archers, since the archers are way more powerful if they have something in front of them to take the damage, since the archers deal a lot of damage, but they don't have a lot of health at all. They're actually quite weak. I think every archer has like 45 health, so that's a really quite low amount when you compare it to the 700 health that Lord Sentinel Thelic has. So yeah, if you play your deck together like a synergy deck with your teammate, then it is really quite good. Right here we can see what I talked about previously. I'm playing the infiltrators, the 4 spacemen or spacemen. I'm playing them at the very top because the Setsu jumped. So when the Setsu jumps, obviously he can't defend himself, and that means that I can just play my infiltrators right on top of him, and while he is walking around on the battlefield, he can't defend himself at his hero power, at his hero tower at all. And that just allows you to push through a lot of damage, to be honest. So far my teammate is very competent. You can see that it's not the first time that he's playing the game, because when I play my Lord Sentinel Thelic, he actually plays minion to go along with it. So I play my Lord Sentinel Thelic and he plays a nice strong minion at the top, and that way my archers have a nice strong minion in front of them, and that just basically helps to keep your archers alive. So yeah, that was a good teammate there. Obviously the game has a solo mode, and the solo mode you obviously go up against anything, like just a random opponent, and obviously you don't have a teammate. Then you get the random teammate category or league. That's the one I'm playing currently, where you basically are going with a random teammate, and you're also going up against random teammates. So your enemies aren't a pre-made team. It's literally impossible to encounter a pre-made team when you are in a random league. So you select the random teammate league, and that means you will get a random teammate, and that also means your opponents will be random. They won't be a pre-made team, since pre-made teams are another league that you get. It's another kind of a mode that you get, and in that mode you create a lobby with a teammate, and you can basically enter the game at once, like together. You enter the game together with your pre-made teammate. So you can ask a buddy to play with you, and you can even design your decks to have a lot of synergy. So for instance, you can both of you can play a crystal deck, or both of you can play Mordor with big minions, for instance, or anything like that. So you can do a lot of synergistic combinations with the cards, and you can get a lot more value that way, since obviously we'll be getting a lot of synergy and a lot of value constantly by either buffing each other's minions or healing each other's minions, whatever is the case. So that is not the case with a random teammate league. I'm now playing in the random teammate league, and in the random teammate league you get a random teammate, and you are obviously also a random teammate. So your opponents get random teammates, and your teammate gets a random teammate, which is you, obviously. And in that case, you just really have to hope that your opponent isn't like a mouth breather noob. You know, you really have to hope for a good teammate, since I have played with a couple of really idiotic teammates where they just either don't play their deck correctly, or they don't even care about you or what cards you are playing, since at the bottom of the screen you can see my cards on the left side, and then you can see my teammates' cards also on the right side. So literally you can see what cards your teammate has, and he can see what cards you have. So you can see, okay, he's now going to play Sentinel Lord Thelek because he's charging to 10 mana. That means I can play one of my nice, strong, tanky minions at the bottom in order to go with his archers, you know, something like that. So you really get some good players, and sometimes you get some bad players. It's really just a mixed bag when it comes to the random teammate league. Sometimes you get good guys, sometimes you get really shitty guys, and they really just screw you over by being shitty. Since if your opponent just has a mildly skilled teammate, then that automatically basically means you're going to not be able to beat your opponents, even if your opponents are just like relatively good, and you can be like the best player there is, but having a shitty teammate basically then means that it's 2 versus 1 for the most part. So here once again we are going up against a Setsu. So when he plays himself on the field, you can obviously see him there at the bottom of the field walking. When he plays himself on the field, I can play my cards at the top, and that way they will walk around to the top and just blast his face, since he is then obviously not able to defend himself at all. Unfortunately there I missed the fireball on the Harbinger of Doom. That's obviously not good. Harbinger of Doom is a notoriously difficult card to deal with. It has a massive range. It's like one of the biggest ranges in the entire game. So it can basically attack you from very far away. And it also has a lot of health. It has, I think, 300 health, which is like, it basically makes it one of the most powerful flying minions, if not the most powerful flying minion. I think it might actually be the most powerful flying minion, but anyway, it just really deals a lot of damage. It attacks very slowly, so you can like overwhelm it by playing a bunch of small flying minions or a bunch of small ground minions that actually attack air. and then just basically overwhelm it. But yeah, it has a lot of health. There we can see he just played another guy, but my two flying guys should be able to deal with it very efficiently, and in fact they did. So I played 4 mana. I paid 4 mana for my two little flying jet kind of guys. I don't really know the name right now, but my two little flying jet guys that cost 4 mana dealt with the Harbinger of Doom very quickly, and the Harbinger of Doom actually costs 7 mana, so literally my 4 mana card killed their 7 mana card very easily, and on top of that they still survived, so I still had my 4 mana cards left over, even though their 7 mana card was dead. So that was a really good exchange there. It's always good when you can spend less mana than what your opponent spent on a specific card, but you obviously kill their card. That's quite an expensive card, and you then have your card left over. Unfortunately, my teammate isn't that good. He's playing his laser tower very inefficiently. Laser tower has a very big range, so you can actually play the laser tower. If you play it correctly, the laser tower can deal with very strong minions very efficiently, since the laser tower attacks quicker every time it attacks a minion. So it attacks very slowly at the beginning, but eventually it attacks very quickly. So a single laser tower can basically kill anything, like the dragon it can kill very quickly, or the colossus it can kill very quickly. So basically the laser tower can kill pretty much anything if you play it correctly and make sure that the laser tower doesn't get killed very quickly. And unfortunately my teammate right now is not being able to do that. And apart from that, if I look at their deck, they're playing a very weird deck, to be honest. It is a deck that really doesn't synergize with Morelia at all. Morelia is obviously the dragon lady. She can summon the dragon, that very, very powerful dragon. And usually when playing a deck like that with Morelia, you usually want like maybe a healing spell or priestess. Priestess works very well with the dragon. That's why if you saw there, I played my priestess with his dragon. So I played my priestess behind his dragon so that my priestess can heal his dragon. And in fact my priestess did heal the dragon for quite a lot, since the priestess obviously does a certain amount of healing per second. So every second that the priestess is close to whatever minion you want it to be healed, the priestess will just constantly heal that minion. So having priestess with the dragon is really, really good. Honestly, you can win the entire game by having the dragon with a priestess or even 2 priestesses behind the dragon, since the dragon is so fucking big and it does quite a lot of damage. It attacks air units and ground units, the dragon will basically just deal with anything that you throw at it as long as the dragon stays alive. And that's really the point of the priestesses. They will just heal the dragon constantly, and there's nothing you can do about it, or there's nothing your opponent will be able to do about it, because they will just constantly be being healed. The dragon will just constantly be being healed. So I've honestly played a few decks where you have the dragon and double priestess, since you can run double priestess, or even triple priestess. You can run 3 priestesses in your deck. You can actually run 3 of any card in your deck. So you can run 3 monkeys in your deck. You can run 3 fireballs in your deck, like literally any card in the game. You can run 2 of them or 3 of them if you really want to. It's a little bit complicated to explain how exactly you do that, but basically the game has a glory system on every card, and the more glory that a card has, the more of that card you can put into your deck. So if you have a glory level 2 card, then you can put 2 of that card into your deck, and if you have a glory level 3 card, then you can put 3 of that specific card into your deck. But you can only put 2 extra cards in your deck. So you can't have 3 dragons, 3 fireballs, 3 chain lightnings, 3 monkeys. You can't do that. You can only have 2 of any card in your deck. 2 extra of any card. So you can only choose 2 cards to have extra in your deck. You can't have like 15 extra cards or anything like that. So yeah, but you can honestly do a lot of synergy with priestess. Priestess is honestly a very underappreciated card in this game. That's why I run it in my my King Puff deck. Obviously you can see it right there at the bottom right side. The priestess can basically heal anything that you play it with, and if you have a very strong minion like Colossus or Dragon or even Sentinel Lord Thelek, even though Sentinel Lord Thelek isn't the perfect card, you ideally want a card with a little bit more HP, and Sentinel Lord Thelek doesn't have that much HP. He has like, I think 700, but that's not a lot, to be honest. You get some cards that have like 1,200 and 1,500 HP. The dragon has 2,000 HP. It's the most powerful thing in the game, or the thing with the most HP in the game. I shouldn't really say the most powerful thing in the game, since obviously, as I said previously, in my opinion, Sentinel Lord Thelek is actually the most powerful thing in the game, and Sentinel Lord Thelek can actually kill the dragon on its own. So it's like basically the only card in the entire game that can kill the dragon on its own. Like literally, it's the only card that can kill the dragon. That's how powerful Sentinel Lord Thelek is. But yeah, having priestess with even Sentinel Lord Thelek is a good idea. Basically, the only reason why I run the priestess in this deck, it's not really for myself, since my deck, my King Puff deck, doesn't really have any really strong minions. I mean, I can play the priestess with my monkeys, or I can play it with my soul stealer, anything like that, and certainly the priestess will be able to do a lot of healing, but it's not really that efficient. You more want it with a strong minion like that one at the bottom right now that I played the priestess with. That guy has, I think, 800 HP or something like that, and it does AoE damage and stuff like that. So that guy is actually a really powerful card to play the priestess with, since it will just constantly be healing him. And yeah, it's just a really powerful card to play with. So that's why I run the priestess with this deck, to be honest. It's not for my own minions, it's more to be able to heal my teammates' minions, since most of the times a deck will have at least one big minion. I see this guy has more than one big minion. He obviously has the dragon, but he also has a 7-cost Rumbler. I think that card's name is the 7-cost Rumbler. We will see if he plays it just now, and then maybe I can even play the priestess with it. But yeah, most cards will have a strong minion with it, so that you can combo the priestess with it. Wow, that was a really big fireball. That fireball got quite a bit of value, since it killed my dragons, which cost me 4 mana, and it also killed my teammates' skeletons, which I think just cost 1 mana, but still, it killed like 10 minions, and the fireball only costs 4 mana. Okay, so my teammate just played the dragon. That's really good. Unfortunately, I played my priestess relatively recently, so I'm not going to be able to play my priestess together with his dragon as I wanted, because I first have to cycle through my entire deck. So I literally have to play 10 cards before I get my priestess again, but it looks like it's not even going to be necessary. That dragon is, to be honest, a really powerful card, and I also played stun lancers with the dragon, so my stun lancers just stunned their face, and they're not really able to fight back that efficiently when they are stunned. Stun Lancers honestly is a really powerful card. It costs 4 mana, and you get 2 Stun Lancers, and honestly Stun Lancers can deal with anything in the game except flying minions. They can't attack flying minions, obviously. You can see I just played the Stun Lancers, and they stun anything, any ground minion. They stun like basically permanently. Like they just constantly hit the minion with their stun lance, and they just keep it stunned like forever. So you can have a dragon, you can have the Colossus, which is a 9 mana massive minion, like literally any ground minion in the game. Even Cleaver, like you see there at the top, there's a Cleaver. That Cleaver costs 6 mana and is like incredibly powerful. It deals like I think 200 damage per hit. But as you can see there, basically that single stun lancer killed that Cleaver. So I mean that's hilarious value. Basically 2 mana defeated a 6 mana minion. I mean, that's crazy to think that your 2 mana can deal with your opponent's 6 mana minion. Right here I've played the priestess to go together with his 7 mana Rumbler. The Rumbler is a really powerful card. It has a lot of HP. I think it has like 1200 or 1100 HP, and it actually deals a large amount of damage as well. So this combo is just an insane combo. If they can't deal with my priestess, they're just basically dead. And as we see there, they're extremely close to being dead because yeah, the teammates Rumbler just refused to die because of that healing that my priestess provided to it. It just basically healed it into oblivion. So yeah, that's the kind of combos that I'm talking about in team games. It's really quite important to get combos like that going with your teammate, since if you don't, it's not like you're at a massive disadvantage when you go against pre-made decks. You can still absolutely beat a pre-made deck or a pre-made team if your deck and your teammate's deck isn't a pre-made deck, or they don't have a lot of synergy. But it just really helps to have combos like that. Like here I can do it again. I can again play my priestess with the Rumbler. Unfortunately the Rumbler dies, but my priestess is still alive, and my priestess can heal the crystal construct or whatever that thing is. That thing also has quite a lot of So yeah, guys, I think that is pretty much it for today. I had a lot of fun playing this bunch of games, probably more than 2 hours by now, and yeah, I just basically wanted to play a bit of Minion Masters. It's the first time that I played it on my channel. In the future I will be playing it quite a lot. I will even be doing giveaways with Minion Masters. So yeah, guys, it's a pretty cool game. You can get it for free on Steam if you like. I will leave a link in the description below. So yeah, guys, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.